Wouldn't it be a great start to the video if I just accidentally dropped this on the floor? It'd be a cool video. Is it in frame? Can you see it? Can you see the castle? Awesome. So unless it's not blatantly obvious, I have never recorded a YouTube video before. I've even got one of those little mics so you can hear my voice. It's a bit dark outside today, but hopefully you can see me all right. Maybe the sun will come out halfway through and it'll be like angelic tones. I think the mic's working. I can't see a little light on the receiver. Stickers! I love stickers. Yeah, I think we're okay. I think you can hear me. So to get into it, hi, my name's Ian. I've created this YouTube channel, Crafty Frills, to talk about a little passion project that I've been working on for a while. Lego have already done some really good Disneyland Lego models. They've done the Florida theme park castle, Cinderella's castle, and then they've also done some mini builds of both the Disney World castle and the Disneyland castle in California. For those of you who don't know, there are 6 Disneyland theme parks around the world, 6 with the castle in the middle. And most of those castles are distinct. They're their own structure, they've got their own character. But there's always been one of those castles that I've personally felt deserves its own big Lego build, and that is the Disneyland Paris castle, because I think the architects went above and beyond. The Imagineers designed it very deliberately to stand out from other European castles. Obviously in America there aren't that many castles to compare with in the country, but it was important for this theme park because in France there are thousands of castles across the country. Medieval ones, beautiful chateau inspired houses. They wanted to go a bit further, they wanted to be more magical, they wanted it to kind of feel like it stepped out of a storybook to distinct itself from all the other castles in France. And that's why I did the video. I know there are loads of Disney and Lego fans out there who would love to build a Disneyland Paris set, so this video is for you. I really hope you enjoy it. So I've already posted a few YouTube shorts on the channel showing the time lapses and how I've built each of the sections. I also did some Reddit posts that went down well, and one of the main comments I got was, why haven't you uploaded this to Lego Ideas yet? I tried. Unfortunately, due to licensing or contractual reasons, you're allowed to do a lot of Disney ideas on Lego Ideas, but Disneyland is unfortunately just one of those ones which they can't do. But I did get a lovely email from them saying it was really nice to see, explaining why I couldn't do it. But if that IP restriction's ever taken down, then I might try to upload it again in the future. For now, I'm looking at refining the instructions. I'll find out what the best way is to share that with you guys, either through Bricklink or sharing the PDF on Reddit, something like that. So stay tuned. Obviously Lego had something in the past where you could design your own models online and then ship the pieces over to build it. But now there's this software called Studio on a website called Bricklink. That software is really good. I've lost days of my life. So that was most of my winter last year designing this, and I had a really good time. At first I thought I was just going to do the castle itself, but then as I was looking into the castle and researching it, I realised Disneyland Paris has these structures, which I'm just going to call side terraces. They extend outwards quite far. So when I was working out the plate for it, I just designed it as a circle. I went from the centre of the castle to the edge of these side terraces. And when I drew the circle in the software, it was quite large. There was a lot of space to use. So I thought to myself, I could go a bit nuts here and do the whole theme park in a diorama micro scale. Still keep the castle as this scale. So I took the plunge and that's what I did. So the main design took a lot of research. I went through hundreds of different photos, Google Earth, Street View, my old holiday snaps. I also wanted it to look familiar from every angle, not just the front of the castle. You got the cathedral structure at the back. Apparently, when they designed the original castle in California, the back area was actually going to be the front of the castle. But what happened is one of the Imagineers, or it might have been Walt Disney himself, turned their model around and thought, oh, actually this side looks better. So since then there's been this theme of designing the castle to make sure that from the front, the back, the side, wherever you're looking at it, the proportions work. No matter where you position this model, no matter how you sit it on a display, whether it's the front or the back, it still looks beautiful. This is why it's on a Lazy Susan, so I can turn it around this video and show you guys. Woohoo! So when the digital model was done and I ordered the pieces, it came out as 7,000 pieces, which completely took me by surprise. Because when you look at it at the moment, it's quite compact. I didn't realise I had put that many pieces in it. It's not that it's a large model. It is a big model, but you've seen the Eiffel Tower and the Death Star. Some of these models can be huge. It's not that there's many pieces, it's that there's lots of intricate small pieces to show detail, and it becomes a really compact model. And that's what happened with this one. One of my favourite pieces is actually a Star Wars piece, this see-through large oval piece at the front. That's actually a Gungan shield, and those are the laser shields that Jar Jar Binks' race used to defend themselves during a battle in Star Wars Episode 1. So they built minifigures for a set of that ages ago, and this is what the minifigures held. This actually isn't an original idea from me. There are a few other fan versions of this castle online, and they have also used a Gungan shield as the stained glass window. So I carried on the tradition and used it in this model as well, because I don't see any other piece that works as well as that. Now, because I'm a civil engineer, I probably went a little bit too overboard with the detail. But the other thing I went overboard with was the structure, the base, which the whole model sits on. This base uses a lot of internal Lego Technic bricks. Technic bricks. And those were required because this model as a whole weighs a couple of kilos. It's not too heavy, but it's enough that a single plate would have just snapped or broken into two. There's also Mickey Mouse clothed coloured bricks on the bottom, and also Donald Duck coloured bricks inside. That was just a little Easter egg, because otherwise the base would have been very grey, but I wanted to leave it grey so your eyes were drawn to the castle and the details on the top, not the foundation itself. The moat is made up of translucent light blue tiles. Most of the grass is green. There are actually 3 main green colours in Lego. So what I did is I used the normal green for most of the grass and trees on the model, but where I wanted more jungle, dense themed areas to stand out, I used a darker green, and where I wanted it to be a bit more fantastical or magical, like in Fantasyland, I used the lighter green. Most castles were built to be defence structures. They were to protect the people or village within the walls. And Disneyland Paris, like all the other parks, have a defensive wall here. So yes, if Disneyland ever had a hypothetical siege, then I guess you could defend the castle. It does have the defensive structure. Hopefully that never happens. The side terraces continue the defensive wall, and then you've got the colourful roofs and turrets on the top. This area is a nice little raised garden which you can walk around. There's the wishing well where I think Snow White hangs out. It also extends on the other side behind the hill, and there's also archways and entrances that lead to Fantasyland and Adventureland. These side terraces are separate from the rest of the build. They're on hinges, and then you've got some bricks on the side which kind of secure it so it doesn't wobble. Both are really sturdy and stick to the plate, even though they're not technically attached to the plate at the bottom. Above the castle walls, that's where it turns into the fairy tale castle structure that we all know and love. I wanted to make sure that the depths and widths when you look around the Model 360, none of the houses look too wide, none of the towers look too thin, and overall I balanced the proportions as well as I could. Now Lego obviously have a lot of different colours which I could have used for the castle. They have a lot of different shades of pink. Eventually I decided to go for the light nougat colour, because that was the closest colour I could find that matched the castle on a sunny day. Obviously when it's rainy or if it's cloudy, the castle looks a lot darker and becomes a bit more purple. But the other pink colours I looked at for this model, they either looked too sunburnt or they looked almost blackcurranty or like a red velvet cake. But I'm really happy with the light nougat choice in the end. I think it's the perfect colour. You'll notice there's some brown tiled bricks around the front of the house elements of the castle. That's because those parts of the buildings are half timbered style. You can see timber beams and timber frames poking out of the walls. I'm guessing when the Imagineers designed the castle, they wanted this part above the defensive walls to look more friendly and homely and from a fairy tale book. And a lot of those structures that feel like home are those half-timbered cottages. They feel warm and welcoming. So most of the slender towers, I used round bricks. There's also minifigure heads, blank minifigure heads with light nougat colour in, where I needed it to be a little bit thicker. Because the Paris towers, they're not all straight. The thicknesses change as you go up. There's some really nice intricate detailing on them. You've also got these structures here, which extend out and connect to some of the towers. These are called flying buttresses, and there's already a Lego piece which is half an arch. And also, thankfully, they're in light nougat. Otherwise, I would have had to get a bit more creative and done a little bespoke build of other pieces. The main tower itself in the middle, I'm going to call the main keep tower, because in castle architecture, that's what other castles would call it. This isn't actually circular, it's an octagon if you look at it through section. So in the middle, there's lots of single bricks with studs on the side, so I could attach plates to the side of it. So the side of those plates make up the first two sides of the octagon, and then there's a flat white plate to make up the other two sides of the octagon, because if you look at the main keep in real life, it's pink and white and pink and white. There's a repetitive pattern around it. And then I used these slopey light nougat tiles to make up the last four sides of the octagon. And I'm really proud of how that turned out. It looks really close to the original. The big tower at the back here is what most castles would call a drum tower. It's a really wide tower with a big turret at the top. The angled bits here where it curves out and supports the wider turret on the top, that was quite difficult to do. Lego's main colour for blue, thankfully, works really well for the castle roof on this model. I was worried I'd have to buy slightly more expensive sloped bricks for the roof to match a certain blue colour, but the normal blue works fine. All the spires are pearl gold colour. Most of them are the spiral horn shaped elements. They look like unicorn horns, but there's also ski pole elements. The back, you can see the stained glass windows and the openings that lead you out to the Fantasyland side of the castle. And last but not least, we've got the beautiful lantern tower? I don't know. It's the nice tower on the top. The windows are actually... The windows are actually serving tray tiles. It's like with the ski poles. I'm guessing when Lego originally made these were for minifigures to hold if they were waiters and they were serving food. On Microsoft Paint, I did a little pattern of the window and created some stickers. Stickers! This oval was the perfect size for those lantern windows at the top. One cool thing which I challenged myself to do with the model, which I'm really proud of, is that the castle itself is removable. This is all one build. You can lift this bit off and you can pop it to the side. And then when you look through the doors and through the top of this hole, you can see all of the inside of the castle is hollow. And inside is the entrance hall. I managed to replicate the tile flooring. I managed to add the little shop. There's also a second floor in the castle, and then you can go look at the stained glass windows in detail because they retell the original Sleeping Beauty film. Around the balcony of that walkthrough, there are these gorgeous little columns which are shaped like trees, and they were beautiful. I had to include those in my model. It's also such a Lego thing to do, hiding lots of nice little Easter eggs in your model for fans to find. The castle has a hill on the left-hand side. I guess the technical term for it is an escarpment because the front of it, you see a very straight cliff face. And then on the top, there's loads of lovely greenery and the square trees. In real life, these trees get smaller and smaller as you go up. That's because all of the castles in the Disneyland parks around the world are designed with forced perspective. So the bottom levels are done to scale, and then as they designed the castle going up, they started to make the windows and the towers and the other elements slightly smaller until you get to the top and it's at a very small scale. To you, it looks really tall and towering over you, but in real life, it's only about 50 meters tall. I don't know if my model carries the forced perspective. I think what I've done is, if the castle wasn't forced perspective, this is what it would look like. Because you can tell from like my model, like this is huge. It's not like this in real life. Maybe this is forced perspective, the stuff at the top. There's quite a small room for someone to live in at this scale. That would have been such a huge headache doing the forced perspective with Lego. There is one thing which I needed to include in the model, which all Disneyland fans will be aware of if you're a fan of this park. And that is that there is a dungeon in this castle, and in that dungeon is a really impressive animatronic of a dragon. I don't know if it's supposed to be Maleficent, because obviously in the Sleeping Beauty films she turns into a dragon. I don't know if it's supposed to be her, or if it's supposed to be just a general dragon, or if it's up to you to decide. But for now, I'm just going to call it the dragon. I did wonder how I was going to get a dungeon to work on the model, because obviously I didn't want the base to be too thick. But then I realised in the real theme park, it's not a real dungeon. The room where they have the dungeon where you can visit the dragon is inside the hill. It's not actually underground. So I did the same for my model. I made the hill hollow, and if you look at this little cave opening I've hidden on the side, you can see the little animatronic dragon sleeping. But yeah, I couldn't not put the dragon in this model. I needed to find a place for the dragon. Hello, Ian from the future here. It's a red top, so obviously eons have passed. While I was editing this video, I realised I was talking a lot. I just wanted to check in on you as the viewer. I just want to make sure you're still enjoying the video. It's not too late where you are. You don't need to go to sleep. You don't have work tomorrow. Are you binge watching right now? If you are, I'm honoured to be a part of it. But have you been doing the binge session for a long time? I just want to check that we've eaten, we've had water. I know how addictive social media can be, so I just wanted to check in on you guys. And also, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed this second half. That is it from Future Ian. Thank you. So that's the castle, but like I said before, I didn't stop at the castle. I did the entire park. So Disneyland is made up of 5 different areas, and the first one I designed was Frontierland. In Paris, the land encircles a man-made lake, which they call the Rivers of the Far West. In the middle of the Rivers of the Far West is the island with the Big Thunder Mountain attraction on. This is by far my favourite version of Big Thunder Mountain. They built this one on an island, and to get to it, the ride vehicle goes under the river in a tunnel. It's a really long, really fun ride. The rockwork of the mountain is based on the American Southwest. So the 2 main colours I used to replicate that type of mountain was dark orange bricks and light nougat coloured bricks. The summits are either cone pieces, or I've also used these like ice cream swirly pieces. They also look like something else. I also used light grey pieces for the track and managed to squeeze in at the bottom here the splashdown scene where the train carriage dips down near the water. The other main attraction is Phantom Manor. This was a bit of a challenge actually to do at this scale because I didn't want it to over-empower Big Thunder Mountain. This is Disneyland Paris's version of Haunted Mansion. And in Paris, they decided to put it in Frontierland. So their version's called Phantom Manor, and they've tweaked the story slightly for it to be about a family in a manor house from the Wild West period. The colours were hard to choose for this one. I used all the different brown textures for the roofs and the walls. In the end, dark tan and black roof seemed to work the best. I don't know, there could have been other colours that worked, but I feel like this was the best balance. I used headlight bricks, I think they're called. They've got hollow square backs, which imitated the windows really well. If you ever visit Disneyland and you're a bit overwhelmed by the crowds, I'd recommend going up past Phantom Manor, walk through the courtyard, go through the graveyard and go to the platform where you can view the geysers and all the landscaping around the rivers. That's a really nice quiet spot if you just want to chill and relax for a little bit. Adventureland was fun. I basically added lots and lots and lots of trees. Where Frontierland feels more spacious and open, Adventureland, there's a lot of different winding paths and routes you can do. So I used all the different coloured green elements I could get. I used lots of flower and petal and tree-like pieces, and wherever there was space, I added a tree just to make it feel really enclosed and make it feel like you could get lost in it, just like the real land in the park. There's a mini build for the entrance arch from the central hub. This is themed to an Arabian market. There's also the entrance to the Aladdin walkthrough ride at the back here in purple. The Swiss Family Robinson treehouse is a brown cone with a bracket on the top that supports all the stalk elements. And on those stalks, I added loads of dark green flower pieces. They imitated the leaves really well. I also added another nougat ice cream cone piece, like on Big Thunder Mountain, for the treehouse building. And then a bigger cone for the main treehouse building. I wanted to add the steps as well to show you how you get up to the treehouse. So I used some slope pieces which have like a grill pattern on them. And then the other island in this land is the Adventure Isle. That's got loads of caves and pathways themed to pirates, which you can get lost in and explore. On the front of Adventure Isle, I included Skull Rock and a little mini build for Captain Hook's pirate ship. And then at the back of the land, we've got the Pirates of the Caribbean attraction, which is themed to a old Caribbean fort. And then inside the building, I left it hollow and included a little diorama of the ride itself, because it's on the edge of the plate and I thought it would be a bit boring to see just the back of a ride building. Also on the end here, I did a mini build of the Indiana Jones roller coaster. This is basically just light tan bricks with different shapes to match the temple theming. And then I managed to fit on 2 of the mine carts. The wheels for this are actually roller skate pieces. These roller skate pieces I've used throughout the model for anything which is a roller coaster car, a Main Street vehicle car, basically wherever I needed a wheel, roller skate pieces. There are some lands where I had to get rid of some attractions, like the theatre and the railway stations, but Adventureland I managed to fit everything in, which I was really impressed about. Fantasyland was a fun one. I wanted to make sure that this one was brightly coloured and distinct from the other lands around it. So the pathways for Fantasyland, I used a mixture of light nougat and bright pink to make it more vibrant and magical. All of the lands on the model actually have different coloured pathways, so when you look at it from above, you can distinctly tell which land is which. Main Street USA is a dark red colour path, Frontierland is grey, Adventureland is dark tan because that's more jungly and sandy. Discoveryland is light blue because it's more futuristic. And then the path up to the theatre, where I can't decide if it's Fantasyland or Discoveryland, I made that coral coloured. This is the more spacious land in the park. Everything's more spread out. There's no trees enclosing the area or a big lake separating everything. So I made a decision not to do the shops and the dark rides at the front of the castle. I thought it would be too cramped and it wouldn't look right. I've also done a very simple mini build of the Lancelot carousel. And there's also a few pieces to signify the sword in the stone. When I was a kid, they used to do a show of Merlin and they got all the adults to try and lift the sword out of the stone and none of them could do it. But of course, when a kid came, they pressed a button and the kid could lift it. And then Merlin was like, yay, you're the new king or queen. I had to include the two main flat rides in this land. You've got the Mad Hatter's Teacup, which has a see-through light blue disc on the top to imitate the glass roof. We've also got the classic Dumbo the Flying Elephant attraction. The ride vehicles are on arms that raise up and down, so I used a stalk element to replicate that. And for the ride vehicles themselves, I used a light grey flower piece, because from this scale, the four little petals look like Dumbo's little legs, and I think it works really well. I think it's really cute. At the back, we got Alice's Curious Labyrinth. That was quite easily done. Lego have these bricks which are called log profile bricks, which look like hedge mazes when they're in green. I added the Cheshire Cat flower bed, which you can see at the back of the maze. That's on a tilt bracket with a 2x2 plate, and then I added pink flowers and a pink semicircle for the face. It came out okay. I think in real life you'd want a printed tile or a sticker for the Cheshire Cat face. There's also a mini build of It's a Small World. I made sure I stuck to pastel colours for this ride building because the style of the artist who originally did it, Mary Blair, is very distinctively colouring book or child storybook coloured. I also tried my best to include the landmarks on the mini build. The only dark ride I managed to fit in on Fantasyland was the Peter Pan ride. And like Pirates of the Caribbean, this is on the edge of the plate. So I did the entrance structure at the front, and then inside you've got the little diorama of the scene where you're flying over London. So you've got the little bow and you've got 2 stars to signify the second star to the right and straight onto morning that leads you to Neverland. The side terrace on this side also has a few of the medieval houses that make up Fantasyland. Like I said before, I couldn't fit all of the buildings on the Fantasyland area, but I wanted to include at least 1 or 2. Before we get onto my favourite land, let's talk about Main Street. I believe Main Street was originally designed as a picture-perfect 1900s town that Walt Disney would have remembered when he was a kid growing up. This land at this scale is obviously very enclosed. It's hard to see everything. So for this build, I wanted to make sure that you could lift them all up as their own separate mini build. Now, I obviously couldn't include all of the shops at this scale on this model, so I picked out the favourites. You've got the City Hall building with the tower. You've got the Emporium gift shop. You've got Casey's Corner, which is a quick service on the edge. And then you've also got Walt's Restaurant, which I really wanted to include in this model because this is unique to the Paris park. There's also a side street which leads to the entrance of the Liberty Arcade. When they were designing Disneyland Paris, they wanted to make this main street a bit wider and also have separate routes for if it was raining. Because in Europe and Paris, the weather can be a lot colder than the American parks, and like Florida, it rains a lot. So while they're not included in this model, as well as the main street in the middle, there's also arcades on either side of the shop fronts where you can walk underneath and go to the other areas of the park. This side comes off a bit easier. In real life, there's a lot of trees and hedges they've planted at the back of this building, so you don't see it from this ride. So on this side of Main Street, you've got the warehouse where they keep all of the motor vehicles. You've also got Main Street Motor Store and a couple of the cafes. You've got the Gibson Girl Ice Cream Parlour. And then also you've got the side street that leads to the entrance to the other arcade, which I believe is called Discovery Arcade. You've also got a mini build of the Plaza Garden restaurant, and you've also got the bandstand in the middle of the front. There's also a central hub here with the drawbridge to the castle, and then 4 pathways all leading off to the other lands of the park. And it goes back on like that. I was very torn about what I wanted to do on the front of this model. Originally, I wanted to include the Disneyland Paris hotel, but the plate would have had to come out so much more. A lot of the comments I got on Reddit was, why didn't you add the hotel? And that's why. But if you really want the Disneyland Hotel, let me know in the comments and I'll do an extension. So instead I did the railway station. This train is based on a mini build from a Harry Potter advent calendar set where you could build a mini Hogwarts Express. So I used that design and I updated it to make it look like one of the steam trains in Disneyland Paris. So that clips on the front there. So yeah, Main Street's quite contained. It's hard to see from a distance, but if you look up close from a bird's eye view, it's really cool to spot all the little shops from above. And finally, we get to my favourite land, Discoveryland. Now, most Disneyland parks in the world, this area is actually called Tomorrowland. The original Tomorrowland from the first theme park was supposed to be an ode to what the future could bring. It was about space travel, it was about new discoveries. But if you're going to commit to a Tomorrowland based on the future we haven't seen yet, obviously when the theme park evolves and grows, you'll need to update that land to suit, because otherwise it turns into a retro future land, which works fine for some of the theme parks. But I think for Disneyland, they wanted to future-proof that land by not making it about the future we think is going to happen. They did it based on what people in the 1900s thought the future would look like now. And that's how we got Discoveryland. It's based on architecture like Da Vinci. It's based on storybooks like Jules Verne. You've got things like the Hyperion airship because everyone thought we'd be in Zeppelins rather than aeroplanes. You've got things like the Nautilus submarine for the advances of sea travel. It's so nice we've got a unique land to this park which brings everyone around the world to come see it. Because apart from maybe Tokyo Disney Sea, where they've got that Journey to the Centre of the Earth attraction, this land is unique to this park and you can only visit it at Disneyland Paris. So the Imagineers worked really hard on the steampunk aesthetics, and then one of the rides they had to shoehorn in was the Star Wars attraction. The ride building itself wasn't anything special really at this scale. It was just some diagonal elements with a flat back, and there wasn't a lot of room to do a diorama scene inside. So instead I made it look like the roof was exploding and a TIE fighter had just flown out of it. It adds a bit more dynamic effect and it tells everyone looking at this model, look, there's the Star Wars attraction, there's a TIE fighter. There's also the Videopolis Theatre, where there's a show inside and there's a cafe underneath the airship. That's a really pretty steampunk building, so I really wanted to include that in the model. You've got this circular building near the entrance to the land. That's got the Buzz Lightyear attraction in now, so I used brighter colours and the Buzz Lightyear uniform colours for the entrance. You've also got the Orbitron spinner. The centrepiece of that ride is a big planetarium with loads of gold planets and asteroids orbiting around it. You've got the Autopia attraction, which is a lot of roller skate pieces with bright coloured round tiles for all the cars. It's actually quite green, this ride. It goes through a little forest at the back. So I added a load of trees and I used light grey pieces for the road. You've also got the main queue structure, where it's like a half 50s, half steampunk, futuristic neon building. But the main attraction is, of course, Disneyland Paris's Space Mountain. This building is gorgeous. The normal Space Mountain ride, the original, it is a white futuristic building, but in Disneyland they decided to go full steampunk. They didn't want smooth white buildings, they wanted rivets, they wanted copper. They wanted you to think an old Victorian guy got all his workers together and built this from scratch in the 1800s. It's basically a lot of round plates in the middle, and then the shell is made of loads of panels which are attached with a clip. This is the giant telescope structure, which is actually a cannon. This cannon contains a launch for the roller coaster to launch into the building like you're blasting off into space. Originally, this ride was themed to a Jules Verne book about people being shot out of a cannon towards the moon. But now, weirdly, it's themed to Star Wars. So you've got the Star Wars ride there, and the roller coaster itself is also a Star Wars roller coaster. The outside is still themed to the Jules Verne story, but the inside, it's a space battle between all the Star Wars spaceships. I hope that's temporary. I hope we get the original back, because the outside and the detailing is incredible and it's such a unique Space Mountain to the world. I think Disneyland Paris would really benefit from retheming that from Star Wars back to its original concept. And that's it. That's my full model in detail. Obviously it took a lot of planning, it took a lot of patience, but overall I'm really proud of how it turned out and I really wanted to share it with the fan base and the community. I've got so many lovely comments so far from people on Reddit and YouTube. I'm really happy everyone likes it and I really hope you've enjoyed the video. Like I said before, I'll see what I can do about getting the instructions online if anyone wants to order the pieces and have a go themselves. There's lots of other things I could show you on this channel, like theme park maps I've designed. If those are things you'd like to see, then let me know in the comments. Let me know if there's any other Lego models you'd like me to design, any Disneyland themed ones. Would you like to see me do a detailed Space Mountain? Would you like to see me do a detailed Big Thunder? There's also a lot of official Lego sets I've got, which I need to get around to building. So if you'd like me to do some time-lapse videos of those as I build them, let me know. Even if the channel doesn't take off and this channel is just a one-stop shop to show off this build, then so be it. If you've watched this to the end, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Please subscribe to the channel and let me know in the comments what you think. There's some YouTube shorts with some detailed time lapses and more descriptions about the build. I'll leave a link to the playlist in the description. There's also something on YouTube called hype. I have no idea what that means. Does it make the video more popular? Does it hype it up? Whatever it means, hype the video. Hype this model. Hype me. Thank you so much for watching the video. My name's Ian and this channel's called Crafty Frills.